Yeah, I have got a ton of recordings I need to get up on the on YouTube. There's a bunch of them, so I'm going to be doing that this weekend, just getting them all up there. So it just takes forever to upload them.
Do you like my shirt, Professor?
Let's see.
It
Do
says
not disturb.
"Do not disturb."
I like it. It's a perfect introvert shirt.
Heck yeah, it is. That would be why I bought it.
Exactly. Exactly. Uh,
Dr. Lopez?
Yes, ma'am.
Sir, I wanted to ask you if you can give us again how we can look for the YouTube recordings, your YouTube channel.
Yeah, I actually have not given that to you yet, I don't think. Let's see, where have I put that? I'll post it on my little website.
Okay.
I'll put a link there to the YouTube channel. I have not provided that to you yet.
Okay. I thought I may have missed that.
No, you did not miss it. You did not miss it. I just haven't done it yet. So I do have a YouTube channel. It's I forgot what it's called, but I think it's Dr. Lopez's YouTube channel or something stupid like that. But that's where I put all my lectures for my online classes that I teach, and obviously whenever I have to do this as well. So it's just I tried uploading these videos to Blackboard the other day, and it just wouldn't go up, and I don't know why, and I hate Blackboard with a passion that is red hot, so I just don't want to deal with it. So I'll just put it on YouTube. So all right. So any other preguntas? I see a little kid there. So somebody's got their kid there. I like when little kids and animals pop up every now and then. That's always cute. My kids aren't little anymore, so. Let's see. So, all right. So the chapter that we're covering is social beliefs and judgments, and really what it's all about is all of the thought processes that we use when we are making judgments about our social situations. That's basically what it's about. We just finished covering, we talked about intuition and overconfidence and priming, some real basics. But now what we're going to do is we are going to...
You're not... What? Get your own shift.
Somebody mute.
Just kidding. Come with me.
Go on mute. Go on mute. Somebody mute.
Professor, you can mute everybody. There's like a mute all button.
Yeah, where is that guy? Oh, there it is. Ah, all right. Okay, I just muted you right when you were saying that. So, can you unmute yourselves though? Can you unmute yourselves?
Yes, it is
Okay,
still
cool.
possible to unmute.
Okay, cool. All right.
This is
The WebEx mute all button does not allow people to unmute themselves. So that's why I think that's why I was not touching it, but now I'm going to go ahead and use it. So, oh, it says here, allow participants to unmute themselves. Awesome. Okay. All right. So now we're going to move on to a different area about how we make judgments. And this is really a basic area of heuristics. We're going to start with heuristics. Now, heuristics aren't just how we make judgments about social things. Heuristics we use them for everything. And what a heuristic is, and the word is Heuristics, heuristics. And what a heuristic is, it's like a shortcut. It's like a mental shortcut that we use to make decisions, right? So for example, if you're driving along and, you're driving and you see, you look at the freeway as you're like approaching Loop 410, right? And you see that there's a lot of cars, that are not moving too fast on Loop 410, right? You might say, okay, there's a lot of traffic on there and I'm not going to, it looks like there's probably a lot of traffic on there. So I'm going to decide I'm going to go another route. I'm not going to get on the freeway. Now, that's just a shortcut. That's a heuristic that you use to decide what to do, right? Heuristics are different from algorithms. An algorithm is something that computers use, or humans do too. But an algorithm is a set of rules, like a recipe, right? A step-by-step set of rules, right? Whereas a heuristic is more just like a rule of thumb or kind of like guidelines that you use to help make decisions. So
So something that works some of the time, but not
it
always.
doesn't
Like
work all
something
exactly. It
most of the
doesn't
time.
work all the time. As a matter of fact, that's the problem. That's exactly the problem is they don't work all the time. You know, for example, I mean, the big example is let's see, you're black, you must be a criminal. Right there. There's a heuristic that probably isn't gonna serve you too well in society, right? One of the heuristics that one of the types of heuristics that we use day to day is called the I always have a hard time saying this word. Representativeness statistic. The representativeness statistic. It's a really long word. And basically, what the representative is this heuristic is, it's the tendency to assume that someone or something belongs to a particular group if it resembles a member of that group. Okay. So let's say you see a woman with, you see this woman walking around, right? And she's got like her hair cropped short, a few piercings in her face, lots of body art, lots of body art, a tight top and tight pants, and these big black boots. Okay. And her short cropped hair is colored blue. Okay. And she's got black lipstick. Okay. You got the picture? And what if I told you that woman was the head of the order of nuns in the Catholic Church? Would you be like, I don't think so, right? No. What if I told you that the woman was a very active feminist and vegan and an activist for social justice? Yeah, you'd probably be like, oh yeah, okay, that makes more sense than the head of a religious order in the Catholic Church, right? That's the judgment you're going to make right away, right? As a matter of fact, I'll tell you, I had a friend, a young lady who looked just like that, and was one of the most devout Catholics I've ever known. She, she loved like messing with people, but she was, oh, there's a kitty, I see a kitty. um, but yeah, she was a very devout Catholic. But yeah, she had the crazy hair and the piercings and all of the body art and everything. And yeah, she went to mass every day, and she was thinking about becoming a nun. It was just all this stuff. But we automatically peg people. We automatically peg people based on how they look. Now, normally that's a pretty good thing because you know 50, 60, 70% of the time that works, right? That works. But if you're sitting in the hospital, right? You're sitting in the hospital, and let's say you've got a relative in the hospital, and you had to go to the emergency room, and they had to ride the ambulance to the hospital. So you're sitting there in the emergency room, in the waiting area, and then the doctor comes out, and the doctor's this big black guy with dreads, you know and he's like, hello, I'm Dr. Smith, I'm going to talk to you about your husband. And you look, and you're like, what? And then you say something stupid like, oh, is this like an affirmative action thing or something? Like, cringy, oh my god. Okay, I want to disappear and die at that point, right? um People do stupid things like that all the time based on these stupid decisions that they make. Representative. I've been a victim of this my whole career. Because like Mexican guys aren't supposed to have PhDs and be, working in AI and and doing all the stuff that I've done in my life. And it's unfortunate, but it's true. Women in IT, in STEM fields. Whoo, man, you guys have some big problems in IT, especially in certain areas. Other areas it's pretty good, other areas it's not, because again, there's this, they see a woman and they just automatically assume, well, she doesn't know what she's talking about, right? Or especially if you're a young, attractive woman, then it's like, oh, there she really doesn't know what she's talking about, right? But that's a lot of the ways that the representativeness heuristic can bite you. Another heuristic that we use to make decisions that is sometimes, again, not right, sometimes they are, sometimes they're not, is the availability heuristic. Okay. The availability heuristic is the rule that says we're going to make judgments based on the latest information that we have. Okay. The latest available information that we have in our memory, we're going to make a decision. For example, what's the number one killer of women in the United States?
Heart
What
attack.
what is the number one killer of women in the United States? Anybody?
Breast cancer.
Who said that? Okay, Megan. Great answer, Megan. It's wrong, but it's the perfect answer because that's the answer you're supposed to give. Oh, Kitty, based on the availability heuristic, because that's what all you
Is it?
hear about, right? That's all you hear about.
Oh,
Oh, breast cancer. The Susan Komen, wear the pink ribbon. It's got big, huge news, right? But the number one killer of women in the United States is heart disease by like orders of magnitude more than breast cancer, right? A lot more women die of heart attacks and heart disease than breast cancer. How are any of you afraid to fly? Victoria, are you afraid to fly? No? Okay, that's cool.
I'm afraid of social interaction, not the flying itself.
Yeah, yeah, having to talk to people, right? That's why you keep your earbuds on at all times. Yeah, there's people that are afraid to fly because they're afraid the plane is going to crash, right? And then you say, well, the plane, and then I say the plane's not going to crash. I almost positively guarantee it. And they're like, oh, almost, huh? Yeah, well, and then, well, there's this TV show that comes on some channel every day that shows all these plane crashes. They crash all the time, and in fact, they don't. Plane crashes are extremely rare. That's why they have a TV show about them because they're so rare. You have a better chance of dying when you take a drive out to the HEB than you do if you hop on an American Airlines flight to Newark. I mean, the plane crashes are extremely rare. Flying is very safe. But what some people will do is they'll use this availability heuristic because all you hear about are the plane crashes, right? You don't see news about the 5,000 flights that landed safely that day, right? The 10,000 flights that landed safely that day, right? You see the news about that one flight in Malaysia, MH570, whatever it was, like 5 years ago, that just disappeared over the Indian Ocean, right? You see that, it's like, oh well, fuck that, I'm not ever getting on a plane again, right? So again, it's one of those things that again doesn't work for you sometimes, but nonetheless we use it as as a means for making decisions. So bear that in mind. Remember that when you're going through life and making these little decisions uh, about what to think about certain people or certain situations, but most especially people. When you're judging people, I think there's a lot of truth to the old, don't judge a book by its cover. I think there's a lot of truth to that. I really do. My personal life experience tells me that is often a mistake. Sometimes you're right. you know, some, Sometimes I look and I say that guy looks like a total asshole, and sure enough, he's a total asshole. Right? That does happen, but most sometimes you're going to be wrong, especially if you're judging people to deny them something, or to block them from doing something, right? Um, like for example, I've seen this happen. I mean, racist professors who not here at TAMUSA, by the way. These guys, the folks that I know are like very non-racist here at TAMUSA, by the way. But I've seen some professors that like will have a black student come in and ask to work in their lab, and they'll say no, and then like 5 minutes later a white student will come in and ask to work in their lab. They'll say sure, come on, yeah, I got room. You know, it's like, I mean, I've literally seen that happen. And it sucks. It's stupid. It's horrible, right? But you know, sometimes you can't fix stupid, right? So that's just the way it is. Um, so okay, so let me ask you this: how many of you have been through a bad breakup, like a bad, like really like a relationship breakup? Yeah, yeah. Anybody else? Okay, so I got some girl. I got some of that. Yes. uh, so, yeah. And I don't know about. I think women are a lot different than men in this regard. Women get over breakups a lot faster than men do. I think men. Well, I don't know. Reagan's like no, but
I take forever to get over stuff. I take forever.
yeah, I take like forever whenever I get like screwed over in a relationship. I mean, I take forever. But one of the things that I do is I like imagine what if, like I should have done this, I should have done this, I should have done this, right? I should have been this, I should have been this, or even at the time of the breakup, basically, whenever I'm getting like, broken up with and shouted down or whatever. I wish I would have said something, right? But I'm just sitting there like, uh, but and then afterwards I'm like, man, I wish I'd have told her to shove it up her fat ass or something. But of course I never do. Um, that type of thinking, when you're like, going like imagining alternative scenarios for situations, that's called counterfactual thinking. Counterfactual thinking. Um,
I'm
so
a
like,
master of that. I am a master of that.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I spent a lot of my daydreaming time like engaged in counterfactual thinking. So like you miss a plane, right? You miss a plane. And if you're at home, missing a plane's not that bad. I mean, if you're in a hurry, I guess it is. But the worst place to miss a plane is like overseas. When you're overseas and, and the plane that you want leaves like twice a week, right? Which I did this one time. I did this one time. I was in Singapore, and I was supposed to take a British Airlines flight from Singapore to London, I guess, and I missed it. I don't know. I just got the time wrong, and I missed my flight, and I had to stay in Singapore another 2 days. And my boss was like really mad at me because I'm burning another 2 days of hotel expenses and so. But when I missed that flight, and I felt really bad. I felt stupid, right? But I was thinking, man, if I would have just paid more attention, if I would have just written it down, if I would have just been watching the clock, if there hadn't been so many people on the subway in Singapore, if the I was just going through this whole like litany of like what if, if this had, and that's all counterfactual thinking, right? Um, Counterfactual thinking is one of those things that underlies our sensation or feeling of luck. Okay, luck. Because think about it, if let's say you almost missed the flight, or you escaped something bad, right? What are you going to say? You're going to say, man, I could have missed the flight. I would have been screwed, but I caught it. I'm lucky. I'm lucky, right? I'm really lucky that I caught that flight, right? Um, the more significant the event that happened to you, um, the more intense your counterfactual thinking is, right? So I have a friend who was in a car accident about 20 years ago, and he walked away from the car accident, but the paramedic and the doctor told him that if his head had been like, I forget what it was like if his head had been 1 centimeter further over in one direction, he would have been decapitated or something like that. I mean, he barely missed being killed in this car accident. And he really talks a lot about this. It was a big life-changing event for him, right? About how he could have died, and he could have died, and he could have died, and he could have died. And he's always just engaging in counterfactual thinking about what happened. And he's Jewish, but he's like not really religious. He's just kind of Jewish, not Jewish, right? Um, so he's not, really ascribing it to God or anything. He's just sort of like kind of ascribing it to the universe, right? He believes there's something bigger than us in the universe, so that's what he ascribes it to. But again, he's engaging in counterfactual thinking. He's like, man, I could have died. I could have died. When you say that, I could have died, that's counterfactual thinking. It's a source of regrets. You know, most of the regrets that I can tell you as an old guy that most of the regrets I have are for things I didn't do than for the things I did do. I actually don't regret the only thing. No, I mean, I really don't regret anything I've done. Maybe get married a couple times too many, but other than that, but I regret a lot of things I didn't do. A lot of things. You know, and again, that's counterfactual thinking. When you think about, man, if I would have just hooked up with her, or if I would have, if I would have gone to this school, if I would have gone to this university instead of this university, or if I would have taken that job that was being offered to me, or that if I would have taken that gig that was being offered to me, or you're just kind of like all engaging in that. And again, that's a form of counterfactual thinking. Another form of um, I guess thinking that is not entirely logical, like counterfactual thinking, is illusory thinking. Illusory thinking. And my favorite example of illusory thinking is an illusory correlation. An illusory correlation is the perception of some sort of relationship where one doesn't exist. Okay, so you think two things are related, but they're not, right? You think two things are related, but they're not. So, for example, let's say you got up, and for the first time in a long time, you're like, you know what? I feel like a sesame seed bagel with strawberry cream cheese. I haven't had one of those in a fucking long time. Right. So you go out and you get yourself, you go to Einstein's bagel place, and you say, give me a sesame seed bagel with cream cheese, strawberry cream cheese gravy, or strawberry cream cheese. So you get your bagel, and you eat it, and it's like really yummy because that's like my favorite bagel ever, right? And then then you go out and then you go to the Valero or whatever it's called now, and you get gas, and you go in and you buy a scratch off ticket, and you scratch off the ticket and you win $150. Like, fuck. You know what? It must have been the cream cheese and sesame seed bagel. That had to have been it. That's my lucky food from now on. It's the sesame seed bagel with strawberry cream cheese, right?
Yeah, I
Now,
guess that's how lucky items get created.
that's exactly how lucky items get created. That's precisely how they get created. My lucky underwear, my lucky shirt, my lucky pen. I've had all of those at least once in my life, right? Um, and that's how that happens. And it's really just like this random occurrence, right? These two things that happen to occur together, right? Um, but in fact, it's not. One of the things that illusory correlations underlie a lot is conspiracy theories, right? So conspiracy theorists are like crazy good at just like taking two completely unrelated events and saying that for some reason they're related, right? So there was a pizza restaurant in New York City that had some problems with the police, and then all of a sudden it becomes the center of a pedophile ring that is being led by Hillary Clinton, right? For whatever reason, right? They have all of these different types of like weird, bizarre connections based on these illusory correlations, right? This is a big one, right? This is actually one that Daniel Kahneman, the Nobel Prize winner, talked about. This next one, and you're going to see this a lot in your life. This is something you see all the time. I guess like all of these, but it's regression toward the mean. Regression toward the mean. So let's say one of the things that I about my job at work that I absolutely despise with a passion is the number of meetings I have every day. I have at least, I don't know, 5 or 6 meetings a day, at least. Some of them are like 1 or 2 hours long. Occasionally they're 1 or 2 hours long. Most of them are about 30 minutes long. Because at IBM we believe in short meetings, but we believe in a lot. We make up for that by believing in a lot of meetings. So we have a shit ton of meetings, right? I have meetings all the time. And on bad days, I will have like 8 or 9 meetings a day. And literally, I'm on the phone from 7 in the morning because I have some, because let's see, 3 of my employees that work for me are in Europe. So for them, 7 in the morning here is like, I don't know, two or 3 in the afternoon over there, right? So I'll literally be on the phone from 7 in the morning until like 5 or 5:30 in the afternoon. Like and I have to eat lunch in front of here, and like it's horrible. But let's say I have a week. Let's say I have a week where I have like the entire week I have 3 meetings just for the entire week for some strange reason. Okay, for some strange reason I have 3 meetings that week. And then the next week I only have 5 meetings for the entire week. Where I used to have sometimes 5 a day, the next week I only have 5. Okay. Now I might be inclined to think that, oh wow, my meetings are over or something like that. But what's probably going to happen, unless people decided they just don't want to talk to me anymore, or I'm about to get laid off and nobody told me yet, right? Unless something like that happens, right? But unless it's something weird like that, what's probably going to happen in the next week or two is I'm going to get bombarded with more meetings for a week or two. Okay. That's because I had this average number of meetings every week. And then I had that one week where it just fell. Okay. It just fell. The number fell. And then at some point, it's going to have to go back up to get back to average. In other words, the number of meetings is going to regress toward the average or regress toward the mean. Okay. So if you have this run where you think, oh, wow, I'm doing great, or oh, wow, this sucks, you're going to have another run later on where things sort of adjust themselves again, right? Let me give you another example. One of the ways that I judge my semesters when I teach every semester is by the number of annoying students. None of you are included in that number, thank God. Actually, they're all at UTSA because those people are like so entitled. Um, but no, actually, I have one this semester here at TAMUSA, other than not in this class. But so so every semester it's like a semester is either like an average number of annoying students, a really high average number of annoying students, or a really low number. That's kind of how I hold it. So I know that if I experience a semester like last semester of a lot of annoying students, I know that what's probably going to happen is that the next semester, or maybe even the semester after, I'm going to have a very low number of annoying students because it's over time it all has to balance out and go back to the average. Okay, so this semester is actually pretty low, and I think it's because I had such a high number uh, last semester. So that's what regression toward the mean is. It's basically the numbers are going to, the numbers across time are always going to be going back to the average. So if you've got a big high for a while, you're going to experience a big low. And if you had a big low for a while, you're going to experience a big high. So everything can always balance out. Some people try to use that to win the lottery. So, oh well, the number 9 hasn't been picked very much in the last 20 picks, so it's due. It's due to be picked. And that system doesn't work, by the way. So I tried it one time, it doesn't work. So um let's see. What time is it? Okay, we're doing good. We're doing good. Does anybody have any questions or comments up to this point? Everybody, everybody cool? Okay. Let's see. Okay, not bad. Let me see if how I want to talk about this. Um, so one of the, so now, okay, so what we just finished covering in this first part of the book, first part of the chapter, are all of the mechanisms that we use to make decisions about our social world, right? The heuristics, the counterfactual thinking, the priming effect is always there in the background, priming us, right? If you think about it, if you look at things like, if you look at, for example, availability heuristic and representative heuristic, you can see how priming works. Like, for example, the availability heuristic, right? The availability heuristic says that we are going to be thinking about something that is most recent in our memory, and that's priming, right? So that's one of the reasons I told you that priming the mechanism of priming underlies a lot of these different types of things. Now let's talk about our perceptions. Believe it or not, and I think most of you know this, our perceptions are not, well, let me put it this way. We don't perceive the world purely, right? In other words, we're not just a video camera that's just sitting there, like recording the world and just laying it all down in memory, right? The way we perceive the world is based a lot on our assumptions and beliefs and our expectations and our prejudgments. The way we perceive the world is based not entirely, but almost entirely on our assumptions and our judgments. It's kind of weird and bizarre that way, but that's just the way it is. Um, for example, political perceptions, right? Um, right now in our history, the political perceptions that we have are just like crazy stupid, right? One side casts the other side as being completely and totally evil and depraved and stupid, but yet taking over the world and running things, which is kind of odd, right? Um, but you're right. Even if so if you're a Democrat, you're going to be like, thinking horrible, terrible things about Donald Trump and everybody who's been working with him. And then if you're a Republican, you're going to be thinking terrible things about Nancy Pelosi and all the Democrats. Um, you know, uh, sports fans. Sports fans are another uh, set of people that you can look at for perceptions about beliefs, right? So, if you've got, for example, a game going on and a referee makes a really controversial call at this game, whether it's any game, baseball, football, basketball, whatever, the fans of the team that benefited from the bad call are going to be like, yeah, that referee's really good. He's like the best. And they're going to be pulling out all this evidence that this referee is like the most awesome fucking referee ever. And then the fans of the other team that were hurt by the bad call or the controversial call, they're going to be, oh no, this referee's blind. He never should have been out there. He doesn't know what he's doing. And you know, and think about that. You have two people looking at the exact same event but perceiving it in utterly and completely different ways, right? Think about that next time you see somebody, if for example, if you really don't like our president, right, which a lot of people don't, um, think about that next time you talk to somebody who really does like our president, right? Think about they're looking at the exact same stuff that you're looking at, but they're perceiving everything completely different because of their prejudgments and their assumptions and their preconceived notions, right? um One of the really, I guess, well, I guess it isn't necessarily bad, but one of the um, interesting aspects of this sort of like different perceptions giving rise to different beliefs is this notion of belief perseverance. In other words, um, we're going to believe our initial conceptions um, almost no matter what, as long as there's a reasonable explanation for why you should continue to believe your perceptions, you're going to keep on believing them, right? So there's an example in the news today, as a matter of fact. So, all right, so apparently Donald Trump, there was a big article that came out in the Atlantic magazine, which is this magazine out of New York City. And in the Atlantic magazine, it was this article that said that Donald Trump apparently like talked really badly about Marines that were killed in World War One. He was supposed when he was in Europe, he was supposed to go over there to where these Marines were buried and like pay homage to them or whatever. And he didn't want to go. They said apparently it's because it was raining and he didn't want to mess up his hair. but but he didn't want to go. He didn't want to go see these Marines, and they were killed in World War One in battle with the Germans. And he called them a bunch of losers, right? And these are fallen U.S. Marines, right? Now, personally, as a champion of the military, I'm deeply offended by this. Right? I have a lot of relatives that were Marines, and I really that pisses me off, right? But if you talk to one of Donald Trump's supporters, and I've been seeing this on Twitter, right, and on Reddit, right, if you talk to Donald Trump supporters, right, the first thing is okay. Um, the first thing is their first line of defense is it's not true. He didn't say it because the White House came out and said it's not true. He didn't say it, right? So it's not true. He didn't say it. But then let's say for the sake of argument that somebody comes out with some real evidence that it happened, right? So let's say somebody has a phone recording, a video phone recording of him actually saying what that those Marines are losers. The next step would be that these people are going to be saying, well, that phone that was faked. The video was faked, right? The video was faked. Or another thing they can say is and this is an excuse that's used all the time, right? The comment was taken out of context, right? Or you could, and if the video is a bad video with bad audio, they'll say, oh, well, you can't really tell what he's saying, right? As long as there's an alternative way to explain that the belief is right, as long as you can cling to some like little shred, like one straw that the belief is right, people will do that. And it's not just, trust me, it's not just Republicans and conservatives, it's everybody, right? Everybody is that way. Again, it's one of those ways that we sort of go against our own so-called logical intuitions, right? We basically there's a quote that's here in your book that I've always liked this quote a lot, right? It's from Henry David Thoreau, and it says, we hear and apprehend only what we already half know. We hear and apprehend only what we already half know. So, the things that we perceive, again, are pretty heavily determined by our preconceptions, right? It's one of the things you really want to keep in mind about yourself, first of all. Why do you believe what you believe? And how is that, A, and then B, how is that affecting your perceptions about other people? And then the other time you want to apply this is when you're dealing with somebody else who might be difficult. Try to think of things, okay, why are they seeing things this way? What is it about them that they're seeing things? I have to do this at work all the time because I'm always dealing with assholes. This is just one of the things I have to do. I have to say, okay, why is this guy being a jerk? What's his perception? What's going on? So there's a statement that's here in your book, and your book asks you, do you agree with this statement, or do you disagree with it? Memory can be likened to a storage chest in the brain into which we deposit material and from which we can withdraw it later if it's needed. Occasionally, something is lost from the chest, and then we say we have forgotten it. Do you guys agree with that's how memory works? It's okay to say yes, even though it's not true.
I frankly don't know. I'm taking. Hopefully, I'll learn more about memory with more psychology courses, but I don't know.
You're going to learn a lot about memory in psychology courses. The reason being is because researching memory is cheap and easy, so there's a lot of research on it. um, we've been researching memory since like the 1890s, so there's a lot of data. But most people, when they hear that, they agree with it, right? Again, it's kind of like and the reason it's wrong. I'll tell you why it's wrong. I'll tell you why it's wrong. It's because we don't keep a pristine copy of our memories in a chest. The copy of the memories that we keep is not pristine at all. It is corrupted by our preconceptions and our beliefs. Okay. Um, there's um, there's a there's a very famous experimental psychologist named Elizabeth Loftus, who did research starting in the really, I guess, in the 80s, and she has done, and her body of work is just extraordinary. She has done a lot of work on demonstrating basically how fallible human memory is, how it doesn't really work the way we say it does. As a matter of fact, her research has influenced the legal profession. Now we know for a fact that eyewitness testimony is almost completely unreliable. It used to be back in the cowboy days and the western days, it used to be that eyewitness testimony was rock solid. If somebody said they saw you doing something, then that was it, right? Because they were swearing under oath, right? And but now we know that people misremember and misrepresent things. This is known as the misinformation effect. Incorporating misinformation into your memory of an event after witnessing an event and then receiving misleading information about it, right? Sometimes you hear about these mentally challenged people that are being interrogated by the cops. So let's say the cops picked up a mentally retarded person and accused them of murder. And this poor person doesn't know how to defend themselves, right? And they're being constantly interrogated. And what the cops are going to do is they're going to be giving this information, little dribs and drabs, little information about the murder, right? Oh, you left her in that park all naked and strangled, didn't you? And they're going to be doing stuff like that. And eventually, what's going to happen, what may happen if this person gets weak is they may confess to the crime based on, they may start incorporating some of that information into their memories, and they'll finally say, yeah, I did it. I strangled her and left her naked in the park, right? It happens, right? Yes, ma'am. Megan.
But I think that actually happens quite a bit, even with people who don't suffer from that. They sit in the
Exactly.
interrogation room for a day and a half with no sleep in the freezing cold,
Yep.
and they promise like
Yep.
a deal if you just say whatever, and they're like, "Fuck it, okay, I did it."
Yeah,
And then
exactly,
it's all
exactly.
bad.
That's
you
the big
know?
one right there. Say, you know what? If you just agree to, if you confess now, and like, and you've been, yeah, you're right. You've been in there for 2 days. They haven't fed you. They haven't given you any water. Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And it's really easy for them to do that, and they know how to do that based on this misinformation effect. I one one thing that happened to me one time was right after my current wife and I got married. We were talking about traveling, taking a trip to Mexico. And I said, yeah, I mean, we had a really great time when we went to uh, Cabo San Lucas that one time. And she looked at me and said, what? Yeah, the time we went to Cabo San Lucas. Yeah, we had a little vacation there. We were there for 4 days. And she said, I think that was probably wife number two. I'm not sure. And I was like,
Insert foot directly into mouth.
yeah, I was like, and I honestly swear to God, to this day, still think that's wrong. But she's saying nope. We've never been to Mexico together. So, but again, we were talking about traveling, and we were talking about going to Mexico. We wanted to go to Mexico City, and because I'd been there a lot of times just for work, but she'd never been, so I wanted to take her. But it was, oops, what are you gonna do, right? Um, what about your past attitudes towards things? Right? Think about your past attitudes toward things. Think about, for example, think about your past attitude toward school. Right? How has your attitude towards school changed between, say, 5 years ago and now? Right? Think about your attitude toward, I don't know, immigrants. Has your attitude toward immigrants changed? Has your attitude toward immigration changed? Has your attitude toward politicians changed in the last, since Donald Trump became president? Right? One of the things that we do, obviously, is we reconstruct our past attitudes, right? We sort of say, okay, well, what was I like, 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago, right? And, one of the things that, one of the things that people do is they will misremember or misreconstruct their past attitudes, right? Um, here's a really great example that's in your book, and I love this example, right? So this was a study from Wolf and Williams in 2018. So it's a very recent study. Carnegie Mellon University students answered a long survey that included a question about student control over the university curriculum. Okay, so they answered that question about student control over the university curriculum. A week later, they agreed to write an essay opposing student control. After doing so, their attitudes shifted toward greater opposition to student control. When asked to recall how they had answered the question before they wrote the essay, the students remembered, quote unquote, holding the opinion that they now held and denied that the experiment had affected them at all. This reminds me of so back, you guys are probably too young to remember, but back when Bill Clinton was the president in the 90s, he got in trouble with a woman named Monica Lewinsky, who he had sex with Monica Lewinsky in the Oval Office, it turns out, right? And back then, Republicans were talking about how important character is. The character of the president. The character is number one. We must have a president with good character. Okay. Well, and especially like Newt Gingrich, who's unfortunately still around, right? Well, what do you think old Newt says about presidential character now? What do you think he says about it now?
He doesn't care now.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I never said
matter now.
I never said it mattered, and it doesn't matter at all. It's just, character is we all have character flaws. That's what they'll say. We all have character flaws. Right? Who doesn't have character flaws, right? And for somebody old enough to remember what happened back then and all the how the importance of character, it's ridiculous. It's crazy. But again, that's that's an example. And again, everybody does it. We all do it. I mean, I grew up in a very racist environment. I grew up in Uvalde, Texas, and it was to this day, as a matter of fact, it was a very divided community, whites, white folks and or Anglo folks and Mexican folks, and the twain shall never meet, right? And I was anti-white racist. I really was. I was really I was afraid of white people. They were dangerous, right? They killed you, right? Um, but and I recognize that. And and I understand, where that came from just because of the way I was raised and the oppressive environment that I was raised in. Now, I don't hold those beliefs anymore at all. They went away when I went to UT and got to meet lots of people. And that's usually how you kill racism, is by just, immersing people with other people. And then you realize, oh, everybody's the same, right? But, I still think about that. I still remember that. And sometimes I wonder, sometimes I wonder, am I misremembering, what exactly I felt back then? Am I overestimating or am I underestimating? Because I did have a lot of white friends. I mean, I had a lot of white friends, and you know, what I had the availability heuristic to sort of tell me about the news stories about all the racist stuff that's been happening, but sometimes I wonder if how I'm reconstructing my attitude that I had back when I was in high school or whatever, right? Thank God we grow up from high school. That's all I gotta say, right? So, and we do the same thing when we're reconstructing our past behavior too. We reconstruct our own histories, right? Like a lot of, like, I used to smoke, and a lot of ex-smokers will not admit that. They just won't admit it. Because it's such a disgusting habit. I happen to love smoking. I wish I could keep doing it. I mean, I really loved it. Yeah, I really like smoking. It was just awesome. But a lot of people will not, won't, and they'll just deny that they were ever smokers if they can, right? All right. So for Reagan's benefit, we will end class now since it's time to go. So I don't want to go over.
Oh, please, Professor, you're as into the weekend as I am.
Let's take another hour. Anyway, does anybody have any questions or comments before we break and go and do whatever it is we're going to do? All right. Well, listen, thanks again. Megan Covey, thank you for your comments. And as always, Reagan, thank you. And you guys make your comments, and you guys have a good long weekend. And we're not meeting Monday. Obviously not meeting Monday. All right. So I'll see you. I'll see you Wednesday. All right? See you Wednesday. Have a good one.
Thank you. Have a good
Yeah,
weekend.
thank you,
Take care.
Professor.